If Liquid Death all of a sudden put out a pink bottle that looked like Hello Kitty, maybe they could make millions of dollars doing that for some reason because it was a good brand, a brand deal for them, but it would ruin everybody who's buying from them right now. Today we're talking about brand identity. This is much more than just your logo and your tagline. It's everything you do in your business. It fully encompasses, how you present yourself to the world, how you deal with your clients, from your marketing collateral to your interactions when somebody walks through the door or picks up the phone and calls you. And it's really important to define what that is. And then even more important to live up to that identity that you're looking to create. I'm super happy to welcome today's guest, Emma Schermer Tamir. She's the owner of Marketing by Emma. Great brand identity right there. She specializes in e-commerce, Amazon in particular, but others as well. So she's a strategist there. She's a copywriter as well, a speaker, and she's a fellow YouTuber. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I think that's the first time I've ever been called a YouTuber, but I guess I need to, embrace that new identity I've created for myself.
Right. Yeah. When you think of YouTuber, you think like Mr. Beast or Dude Perfect or whoever. But yeah, we are both YouTubers at this point. So I'm super excited to talk about it. What I'd like to talk about first, because this is something that our brand identity at my firm, Skyline Studio, was founded upon, is to talk a little bit about writing and sort of the voice behind the business. So I know you've done that. My wife and I founded the company. She comes from a writing background. She's obsessed with good, solid, clear writing, and it sort of informed where we went with our company. So I know that you've done a ton of writing in your career as well. So if we just are talking writing, we're just talking brand voice. Like, how do you? I assume you agree it's important, but how do you deal with that and how do you work that into working with a client?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, it sounds like we have similar origin stories because I'm a writer and I'm also partnered with my husband.
Yeah.
That's really the foundation of our business as well. So love connecting with kindred spirits. In regards to your question about how important brand voice is and how we go about doing that, it's really massively important because this is potentially the only tool that you have to be communicating with your customers. And it's foundational for being able to give a sense of trust and reassurance, to communicate why you're the best choice for them, that you understand their needs, and that you're a company that they feel excited about doing business with. And so, of course, those things can be communicated visually as well. But visuals, if they're not paired with text, they're really just up to whoever's looking at them to interpret them as they wish. So by combining strong visuals with text, that's when you can really control the message and make sure that every single person that is looking at a piece of content is getting the messaging that you want them to. So how do you actually go about channeling a voice? That is, I would say, one of the highest level skills of a writer. It's hard enough to write well in your own voice, but to then be able to take on other voices and styles that really embody a specific brand is quite challenging. And I really approach it similar to preparing for a role like an actor would. And so thinking about what kinds of slang would this person use? What is their underlying motivation? What are the reference points and the cultural things that are resonating with them? And where do they even get their content from? So who are they following online? And all of those details become very important to really capture a voice that's going to be authentic to the brand and also authentic to the customer.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm not the writer of my duo. It's my wife, but we've gotten clients that have specifically chosen us based on her style of writing, which is our voice. Our voice is in this case her voice. It's infinitely harder if you're doing it for a client, but if it's for yourself, it's kind of like your personality. And we've had people sort of react to her jokes. We've had half a dozen or so specifically say, I was looking through a bunch of websites and I laughed a few times, so I knew that we would hit it off, and they were excellent clients for us because of that. So it's, people they're engaging with it, they're interacting with it. This is your brand identity.
There's a great book called Building a Story Brand.
Okay.
It's a fantastic book, and it talks about using story in your business in a really unique way. It talks about putting the customer as the hero of the story. And so that even when we are telling the story of our business and what we do, it's all centering the customer as the hero of that story. My goal in diving into that topic is we hear all the time, niche down, niche down, niche down. And so often how that's interpreted is, okay, well, if you're going to sell, I just have like iced coffee here. So like if you're going to sell glassware, don't just sell glassware because that's a flooded category. Sell glassware for coffee enthusiasts, or sell glassware for Gen Zers that are getting their first home or something like that. And it's all product centered. So it's talking about the niche as in what you're selling. And what's actually more impactful is if you think about niching down through the frame of who specifically you're selling to. And what's really powerful about that is not only is that going to help you drive stronger connection, like what you were talking about at the beginning of this conversation, but it also gives you more space to grow and develop your business over time.
Yeah. And again, people are buying from you not because of your product, because that is generic, let's say, and with exceptions, there are non-generic products,
Sure.
But because of how you sell that product, how you service that product, how you talk about that product, how you package that product. The difference between an iPhone and a Samsung phone in reality is very little, but the way they present those two very similar products, I know some people are going to hear this and think they're completely different, but they are the same thing. Those two ecosystems, the packaging, everything about that is very different. So you're not buying the phone, you're buying Apple or you're buying Samsung. To me, versus hero, I always just say problem solvers, because I always feel like my clients aren't hiring me to design something for them or build a website for them or whatever. It's they've got a problem and they don't know how to fix it, and they're looking for someone to fix it that aligns with how they want to deal with the world, because there are, thousands of people doing what you're doing and thousands of people doing what I'm doing, but why choose Emma? Why choose Jim? Why choose Skyline? Why choose Marketing by Emma? The reason is I like the way they communicate. I like the way they present. I like the way they do their pricing. Whatever the thing is, there's something about the way you present yourself.
Yeah. A lot of people try to skip this step.
Right. Because it's hard.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, well, we'll just go to the next one. This is, I don't know. There's not like a clear right and wrong answer. But you're doing yourself such a disservice by skipping this, because none of your marketing, none of the ways that you're showing up in the world is going to be as impactful as it could be if you were to take the time and the thought to invest in and really thinking strategically about these pieces.
You said you've got the 3 C's of brand identity. So I don't know what that is. Is that right? You have the 3 C's?
No, it's not the 3 C's of brand identity. It's the 3 C's of what I call building an unbeatable brand. So
Okay. So let's talk about, what are the 3 C's? Is this you? Is this like an Emma original, or is this?
This is an Emma original.
Okay, I love it.
So there are 3 components that we've alluded to and touched on a bit, but they're really, really important. And what I would like to say also is that these are not hierarchical, and it's not just, okay, you do the list and then you're done.
Okay.
They're very cyclical. They should all be constantly feeding each other. The first C is the competitive landscape. So really getting clear on what it is that your competitors are doing. What are they doing well? What are they doing poorly? How are customers responding to that? And where might there be some potential gaps and opportunities? So you mentioned it's rare to be truly selling something that nobody else is selling.
Right.
But there could be ways of speaking about what you're selling or positioning what you're selling or positioning yourself that are different and unique. And so doing this research is going to give you insights into where those gaps and opportunities might be. And the second C is your customer avatar or customer avatars. And so that is for those who are not familiar with that term, it's essentially a complete profile of who your target customer is. And we're talking about going deep. So it's none of this, oh, our customers are between the ages of 18 and 99 and they live in the United States. That is not sufficient. By the time that somebody is done reading a good customer avatar, they should be able to have a very, very clear picture of who a specific person is that matches your customer profile. And you might have a few of these. You don't have to have only one, but you want to make sure that this is very clear. And so this is going to start. So we've identified the competitive gaps. We're getting clear on who our customers are. And so then we need that third piece, which is the company identity. And that is building out the exact same thing that you did for your customers, except this is for your own business, and really building out a profile as if your brand were a person. And so this is going to help give clarity to that brand voice that we were speaking about earlier, as well as to just give a sense of how this brand is showing up in the world, what its values are, what kind of future it's working towards. And so when you combine all these three things together, you get something that is unique to you. You have what you need to strategically position and differentiate your products and your brand in a unique way that is going to resonate with your target customers. The kind of missing piece of that is you can do all of this work, but if you are not bold enough to actually apply all these things and to take these risks, then none of that really matters. So this glassware, if it comes down to actually creating your website or your Amazon listing or whatever it is, and you get cold feet and you start to just talk more generally about how great your glassware is and it fits any style and your pictures are showing people of all ages and everything like that, then you're not really fully committing to this positioning that you've identified as being your unique category that you're going to be carving out in the market. And so you really need to commit. I guess that's the fourth C would be
4. Okay, we're changing it right now.
I'm going to have to make note of that.
Okay.
Getting to that, because otherwise none of it matters. And so a great example of this in action is Liquid Death. Love them or hate them, they have really committed to who they are, who their customers are. They are not afraid to ruffle feathers and make people upset. Their marketing is quite provocative. It is certainly not for everyone. And the thing is that if they tried to expand that out and make it more PC and more palatable for a wider audience, they wouldn't have this cult-like following and this enthusiasm around their brand that allowed them to generate over $3 million in just merchandise sales last year.
Wow.
People are tattooing the logo on their bodies. This is really, so I got ahead of myself. If you're not familiar with Liquid Death, it's a water company.
That's it. It's just water. Water in a can.
And cans that look like very reminiscent of like a Guinness beer. I was drinking a Liquid Death once and my dad was like, "Oh, is that a beer?" And he was confused because I don't drink beer. And he's like, "You're drinking beer?" And I'm like, "No, it's water."
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay.
And they intentionally want that confusion, that it would be confused as a beer or as an energy drink, something other than water. And the thing is that they could actually be doing this with a lot of other products. They just happen to be selling water. And that's when you do a really great job of these things, in some ways, the product that you're selling becomes a little bit secondary. Not irrelevant, but it's not the cornerstone necessarily of why people are choosing you.
Right. And it is. And they're a great example of that. If you do branding right, it's good to turn people off. Anybody could buy water. So you literally, the world's population is your customer base. But if you market to the world's population, you'll sell no water. And so if you pick a very, this is maybe not niching down, but if you pick, again, your brand identity and your target audience that is different in some way, has its own identity, and you market to just them, they will become very loyal. If, again, the product still has to be good. I don't know how water could be bad, but when you're doing this and you're doing that avatar, you have to have the guts to turn people off.
Exactly. It's even, let's go back to the example that you used of Apple versus Android. So if Apple were to say, you know what, let's just do that. Let's just abandon this commitment that Apple has had to being a closed, controlled environment. We're just going to open it up because clearly there's this whole segment of people and they're choosing Android just because of that. But the thing is that if they did that, first of all, there's a good chance that it would make Apple lose some of the features that the people that are currently committed to Apple really love. But also, it's possible that the Android users would just feel like, oh, they're just trying to do this because they want my money. And so this actually makes me hate Apple even more. So, we, for whatever reason, we sort of feel like there's some magical universe where we can be just adored by everyone without taking any risks. And the fact of the matter is that even the nicest person in the world is going to have people that hate them because they're too nice. And so
that is true. Sad, very sad,
but true.
But true.
True. And so we can't please everyone. And so if we really accept and acknowledge and embrace that, then the next step is, well, how can we talk to the people that do love us in a way that's going to make that relationship even stronger?
Right. And Apple really is, they've created not only a loyal fan base, but they've created this mini ecosystem to the point where they get sued a lot for it. This fall, so if you've got any group text message, are you Apple or Android?
I'm Apple.
You're Apple. Okay. So you grab a group text message, someone from an Android, in the Android ecosystem comes in there, everything turns green, and it's this big, like, you see blue, it's good. You see green, it's bad. So that's going away, whether the colors are going away or not, but you'll start, if they send a photo, it's not going to be this little mini photo that you can't see anything. The videos will come through, and part of why Apple resisted it for so long is it's like you're either in or you're out. And I don't know who was suing them or was going to sue them, but they finally sort of, came through and they're letting go on that one little piece. But they're definitely not going to let go on the rest of it because it's what, you can't buy it. You buy an Apple computer, you get their software, you get, everything is them. So they've done a great job of saying you're in or you're out. And it's okay if you're out, but if you're in, you're really in. And so that, there's no better example of a good brand identity than them, at least on the big scope, I think, just because they've done an excellent job of making people evangelists for them. I mean, and also haters, because I have a buddy who hates them just as much as other people like them. I'm sort of in the middle. I use both. I have a PC for my computer, and I have an iPhone, and I'm totally fine with kind of working in both worlds. But I know a lot of people who are one way or the other, and they won't touch the Apple world. And it's really interesting because the PC world doesn't have this at all. So if you're in the PC world, you're just in the PC world. You just either hate Apple or love Apple. You don't love. I don't know anyone who loves their PC. I like it. It's fine. But I'm not gonna evangelize about how great my Dell laptop is. It's good. It works. We're talking on it right now, but it hasn't, their brand identity has not made me care enough about them to tell anybody about it, except for right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. It's it in some ways has gone beyond just brand and like into ideology in a
Right.
way where, and that's what's interesting to me too about all of this, is because I think that a lot of us are not aware of the fact that we are making choices in this way. You are saying something when you hold up your iPhone and people see what it is versus an Android or not. And it is saying it is making a statement about you, and people will interpret certain things about you. And if someone were to say, tell me about yourself, you probably wouldn't say, oh, I'm an Apple user.
Some people maybe, but yeah, not me.
Some might. The ones that make sure to go stand in line to get their new Apple phone the moment it drops, perhaps. But at the same time, when you're walking around all day with this device or a Apple Watch or, you know, things like that, or even the AirPods, all of those are telling people who you are.
That's it. It's true. It really is true. Okay, so I'd like to take a couple minutes talking about, if you're writing your avatar, ChatGPT can be your friend. So what I did, so I actually did an avatar for this show. So hi, marketing maven Mike, you're my avatar, by the way. Like that's who we came up with. I have a YouTube coach, Jay, and one of the things as I'm sort of going through this whole thing is like, you gotta know who you're talking to. So obviously not everybody is Mike, but I kind of know who this guy is, right? And it's marketing maven Melissa, so it's kind of both, right? So I know what they like. I know that they don't like to spend a lot of time. They don't have a lot of time. They're busy. So part of the reason why the shows have gotten shorter on YouTube in particular is for that reason. So I went through this whole thing, but I don't have a lot of time either. So, but what I did do, and what I think is the most important, is what are the points, right? So I answered and sort of came up with 40 or 50 things of who this person is. And then I put it into ChatGPT, and they turned it into something that was more usable as an avatar, basically a story, a one-page story, which reads better than just reading a bunch of bullet points. So then you can kind of read that, and every once in a while I go back and read it and say, does marketing maven or marketing maven Mike or Melissa want to talk to Emma or hear from Emma? And I say, yeah, this is a good guess. And so, as hard as that sounds, basically just write your bullet points. I don't know, as a writer, you might think this is terrible, and then throw it in there and just say, create an avatar for this, and you're going to get a one-page sort of bio on this fake person, and read it. So that's an actual step you should take. And I think and then remember to check it and go back and read it from time to time. So, okay, so that's one I've got. Do you have any, like, if you met with someone for the first time, what should they do? Like, what's their first step?
Using ChatGPT to create your customer avatar is a great application for the AI tools like that. I would add on to that, actually. So I do think that is a great time-saving thing to use. If you're not even at the point of having those bullet points, you can actually use ChatGPT or your preferred AI chat tool to identify some of those bullet points. So, for example, you could copy in a bunch of reviews, either of your own business, or if you don't have reviews, of your competitor's business. And if there's any other data points that you have, if you're already selling, then you might have some demographic data that you can put into it. And so you can actually have ChatGPT review that content and then distill it down into the main patterns. And then from there, start to build out some of its key observations as far as what a customer avatar might be. Now, you do always want to make sure to validate that.
Okay, that's great. So more ChatGPT. I'm a big fan of that. So that's a great actionable step. And again, so if we're going to go to the 4 C's, you got to look for, what's available in your market. Like what was that C again? Is it content?
The competitive landscape.
Competitive landscape, right? So what's available, to sell, where is there a place where it's not going to be too cluttered? And then you basically have your company avatar, you've got the customer avatar. I think I put those in the wrong order. And then consistency is the most important thing. Right? Or commitment. Sorry, I got all the C's wrong. But and then you keep coming back.
That was a bonus C.
Sure, no, I like it. That's a bonus one. So, and you just keep coming back, because this should, I guess the next actionable step is every time you do a new campaign or launch a new product within your product line, does it align with, because if Liquid Death all of a sudden put out pink bottle that looked like Hello Kitty, maybe they could make millions of dollars doing that for some reason because it was a good brand, a brand deal for them, but it would ruin everybody who's buying from them right now.
Yeah, that actually, so a great example of how they did a brand deal right is they collaborated with the makeup company e.l.f. They're really good marketers. And so they did a collaboration of makeup, and it was black and white face paint makeup, sort of like what you imagine like a band like Kiss would use. And it was packaged in like a coffin shaped thing. And so if they were to do some kind of makeup collaboration, which on the surface seems like that doesn't make sense, but then makeup that's for the rock and roll kind of goth musicians or likes that aesthetic, or I guess even punk rock and whatnot, then suddenly it makes sense. So
I like it. Yeah, you gotta keep asking that question. Does it fit, with who I'm currently working with, currently buying from me, and where do I want that to move without some brands make a choice. You can look at Stanley. I don't know if they have I actually haven't read this, but I wonder if they've sacrificed their original audience. So audience was men, outdoors, very design is completely secondary. It was all about function, to now completely a total 180 to women. It's about design over functionality. So, whether or not they lost that initial audience, I don't know. That would actually be an interesting thing to look up. But
yeah, that's a great question.
At the very least, they have. It was a good move on their part for sure.
This is kind of an interesting point of, did they make that sacrifice for short-term mega growth, and is that sustainable long-term? Because the challenge is that what they were writing is a trend, and the fact that this was the hot tumbler drink container for a bunch of influencers on social media. And the challenge is that influencers on social media, in order for them to continue to turn a profit, they have to push new things all the time. And so, of course, they can get them in different colors, but potentially eventually they'll be unseated. And so then when they're no longer the trendy drink container, what happens?
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to do the YouTube thing right now because I did a whole show on this. So up there somewhere, I don't know what side it'll be, I'm going to link to that. And so that's a great point. Will they get unseated? Because if somebody knows the answer to have they lost the outdoorsman audience, let us know, because I would love to know that. I'm going to look it up too, because
I
wonder if they did. I still see them because I use the clip art or whatever from Amazon. So they're still selling the old ones. They're still out there. Okay, so that's a good segue. So marketing by Emma. Obviously, you do brand identity. You do writing. You're also in speaking, and like I said, you're a YouTuber. You do all this stuff. But one of your core things, or maybe your main core thing, is Amazon. So can you tell me a little bit about Amazon and brand identity? Obviously, it's the e-commerce platform. Is it different if someone's specifically selling on Amazon? Is it a different process, or is it, if you're doing your brand identity, you're doing your brand identity, and it doesn't matter where you're selling?
I would say it's not different, but it's actually even more important, which seems like it wouldn't make sense because I've already talked about how important it is. But the thing that's different about Amazon versus your own website is your own website, once somebody's there, you don't have your competitors vying for the customer's attention. Whereas on Amazon, all of your competitors are right there. And they're not just right there on the search results page, they're also right there on your product page. Right. So that's one piece. The other piece is that Amazon doesn't make it super easy to compare one product to another. And so what that means is that it can very quickly and easily become complicated and confusing to the customer who may be trying to decide between a few different items. And so once they start to feel confused, they're more likely to just go for cheapest, the one with the highest reviews, or not even shop on Amazon because it's just too overwhelming and maybe they don't really need it after all. Or if they do, they'll just pick it up on their next trip to Target.
Right.
And so you need to have a really clear sense of what makes you different, communicate that to your customers, help them understand why this product is the best fit for their particular needs, and to do that in a way that is concise and engaging so that they don't get distracted by the competitors that are advertising on your page and they just say, yep, this is the product for me. I'm going to go ahead and buy.
And this is, so on one of those podcasts, one of your YouTubes, I think it was the second one. So you go watch the one about niching down. And then at the very end, you link to another one on brand identity on Emma's channel. So you should go watch both of those. They're great. I think I was on the second one, you talk about coffee. So it was Melita coffee, or am I saying that right?
Melita coffee and Black Rifle coffee.
Black Rifle coffee. So, and you talk about their A+ content, which is basically like their sales page. Like, it's not the product page, it's the sales page, right? So you help people build that.
It's as part of the Amazon real estate that you have. It's sort of like your ability to create a mini landing page within your Amazon product page.
Okay. And so what I thought was super interesting about it is, and the point there was, Black Rifle did a much better job. Their brand identity is much stronger. But what I also saw when you were showing those examples is that they are perfect for if you align with that brand identity. But if you're just shopping for coffee, again, there's thousands of coffee. You can buy coffee from anybody. And it might just be brand awareness that would make you not choose Black Rifle. But if you align with that veteran-owned lifestyle message that they're giving about, USA, and, if that really resonates with you, you're going to pick them over any brand, whatever that is.
Yes, absolutely. And that, I think, is such an excellent call out that you made, where all of what we've spoken about today is important for any kind of company, but even more so if you are new or if you are trying to carve out a segment of a category that there are big players there. Just trying to copy what the big players are doing and not have a defined point of view, it's going to be really hard to get the traction that you need to actually be successful. But right. If you can be a little bit, take a step back and make some choices about who specifically you're going to sell to, who you really want your brand to be, then there is a lot of opportunity there. And similarly to Liquid Death, where the fact that they're selling water is almost a little bit beside the point, the Black Rifle is the same. Black Rifle could just as easily be selling some other kind of product. They've just chosen coffee as the vehicle for helping to, uphold this certain set of values that is very important to them and to their customers. And it's so worthwhile for them to invest in that because coffee is a consumable good. So if you capture that customer and they really feel bought in, they're not just buying it because it's new or different or a good deal, but because they're really excited by what you're doing and you can win them over into a loyal fan. Think about the lifetime value of that. Yeah,
that's it. That's what it's about. It's about that, keeping people coming back, making them happier too. I mean, that's the whole thing here. Like, the relationship is better if you buy into what you're buying, right? You're a happier purchaser. The person selling to you is happier. Like, it's, if you do this right, the whole thing is so much stronger, probably more resistant to economic changes. So it's really important to do that right. Okay, so this is a great episode. Thank you so much for coming on, Emma. I'm going to link to all of Emma's YouTube stuff because that's one of my personal obsessions. I've been watching her show now for a couple of weeks since we met. So check out her episodes on brand identity. She has a great one on productivity as well that I watched that I thought was really cool. So you can watch those. Where else can people find you? I know you've got something called the Amazon Analysis. You want to talk about that a little bit before we say goodbye to everybody? Yeah,
so our website is marketingbyemma.com, and we're always happy to offer free analysis of either a product page or an Amazon listing or a website or anything you'd like us to take a look at, you just go to marketingbyemma.com/free analysis. You fill out the short form, and then we will take a look at it and follow up with you about some of our observations of what are those things that you can do to make this page more effective and to help you get closer towards your goals. We're always happy to answer questions, to connect. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And yeah, I'd love it for you to join me on YouTube. It's a really fun space for me to just be able to explore a lot of different topics that I've had a lot of interest in and experience with. So it's my little corner of the internet where I get to geek out about those things. And this has been a great chat with you today, Jim. Thank you so much for hosting me.
Again, thank you for coming on. I love Amazon. I think that's great. Good brand identity.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.